Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. It was a Saturday night. The air in Portland was fragrant with the fragrance of early summer, and everything was thriving. Ethan is a little-known architect in Portland, and this Saturday night, at a swanky restaurant in the Westlands neighborhood, Lawrence Architects, a firm owned by Ethan, is having a big 10th anniversary celebration. With the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, Portland at night, the Willamette River shimmering in the light, it all looks so good. Ethan stood in the crowd, a well-tailored suit accentuating his upright figure. He was smiling and exchanging pleasantries with the guests who had come to congratulate him. His wife, Willow, in a gorgeous evening gown, was elegantly walking among the guests, with a happy smile on her face, smiling with Ethan from time to time, and everything looked so perfect and harmonious. But underneath this seemingly perfect surface, an imperceptible crack is quietly growing. Ethan and Willow met in college when they were a talented architecture student and a beautiful art student, and their love story was a great story on campus. After graduation, Ethan founded Lawrence Architects with his talent and hard work, and gradually made a name for himself in the industry. Willow, on the other hand, became an art curator, not quite as glamorous as Ethan, but a successful career nonetheless. Their daughter, Harper, is 14 years old and in middle school. Harper has inherited her parents' strengths, is smart and multi-talented, and is the apple of Ethan's eye. Ethan's family is certainly a model of happiness and contentment in the eyes of onlookers. However, only Ethan himself knows how much uneasiness and misgivings are hidden behind this happiness. The changes started a few months ago. Ethan remembers that starting about 6 months ago, Willow started working overtime frequently. As the owner of a successful architectural practice, Ethan works a lot of overtime himself, and he understands and respects his wife's career pursuits. Willow's overtime frequency, however, seems a bit excessive. "Honey, are you working late again this weekend?" Ethan looked at Willow, who was packing up to go out one Friday night, with a hint of concern and tentativeness in his tone. Willow replied absently as she fixed her hair in the mirror, "Yes, Ethan. There's an important exhibition to prepare for these days, and time is short. But you've been working overtime for several weekends in a row, and as important as work is, you need to rest." Ethan tried to persuade. "Okay, I get it. You don't have to worry about me." Willow interrupted Ethan with some impatience. "I'll make my own arrangements." After that, she grabbed her bag, gave Ethan a quick kiss on the cheek, and hurried out the door. Conversations like this have happened countless times in recent months. Ethan could clearly feel that Willow's attitude towards herself had become much colder, and the intimate gestures of the past were becoming less and less frequent. Even at the dinner table, there was very little communication. Willow was always fiddling with her cell phone, her fingers sliding rapidly across the screen as if she were messaging someone, and when Ethan occasionally approached, she would quickly lock the screen, flip the phone over, and then find a topic of conversation that covered it up. The change in Willow is something that Ethan sees and is anxious about. He began to wonder if Willow was in some kind of trouble, or if something else was on her mind. Meanwhile, Ethan's brother Finn has been a bit of an anomaly lately. Finn is 5 years younger than Ethan and worked for Ethan's company for a while, but then went out on his own due to philosophical differences. Although Finn has not been as successful as Ethan in his career, the brothers have always had a good relationship. However, at the last few family gatherings, Ethan always felt that there was something strange about the interaction between Finn and Willow. The eye contact between them seemed more frequent and ambiguous than usual. Also, Finn always likes to show himself in front of Willow and put Ethan down, intentionally or not. "Brother, the design concept of this project of yours seems a bit outdated." During a family dinner, Finn pointed to the drawings of a project Ethan was working on and said, "Minimalist style is all the rage nowadays. This design of yours, it's too cumbersome." Before Ethan could retort, Willow interjected with a smile, "I think Finn has a point. Ethan, your design style, it really needs to be updated." Ethan watched as Willow attached herself to Finn. Of course, he knew his design style wasn't perfect, but he would have preferred to hear Willow's encouragement and support rather than this kind of concurrence with a hint of cynicism. What makes Ethan feel even more uneasy is that Finn starts to travel frequently, and every time he comes back from a business trip, he brings Willow some expensive gifts, once even a limited edition designer bag. "Finn, you're breaking the bank here." Ethan looked at the valuable bag Willow was carrying in her hand with a hint of reproach in her tone. What's wrong with that, as long as Willow likes it? Finn said carelessly. Besides, I recently negotiated a big business deal and made a lot of money. Buying a bag for my sister-in-law isn't a trivial matter. Willow, on the other hand, smiles without saying a word, a happy smile on her face. Watching the close interaction between Willow and Finn, Ethan's mind grows restless. He begins to wonder if there really is some sort of illicit relationship between Willow and Finn. Ethan is an introverted person who doesn't like to make a big deal out of things, much less have unwarranted suspicions. But Willow's and Finn's antics have forced him to start facing up to the problem. To get to the bottom of it, Ethan begins to test Willow, intentionally or not. He would pretend to ask about Willow's overtime work and care about her work progress, but Willow's responses were always vague and even a little evasive. Honey, is there something on your mind lately? Ethan asked softly one evening, looking at a distracted Willow. No, what could I have on my mind? Willow glanced up at Ethan, a flicker of panic in her eyes. But I feel like you're always preoccupied lately. Are you in some kind of trouble at work? Ethan continued to pursue. No, you're overthinking it. Willow quickly lowered her head and continued to fiddle with her phone. I'm just tired from work lately. Such a conversation doesn't clear up the doubts in Ethan's mind, but rather makes him more convinced that Willow must be hiding something from him. So Ethan decides to investigate covertly. He starts watching Willow's every move, trying to pick up on some of the clues. At one point, Willow claimed to be meeting a female friend, and Ethan drove her there. Upon arriving at his destination, Ethan didn't leave immediately, but waited for a while in a nearby parking lot. He noticed that Willow didn't go into the cafe she had described, but looked around for a moment and then hurried into a hotel. Ethan's heart stuttered as he realized that it might be more serious than he thought. He followed quietly and found Willow and Finn walking into a hotel in surprising succession. Ethan didn't sleep a wink that night. He waited outside the hotel until late at night to see Willow and Finn emerge from the hotel. They were talking and laughing and looked very close. Ethan's heart completely sunk to the bottom. He realized that the last thing he wanted to face had happened. A few days later, Ethan did a search of the house while Willow was away. He found an old cell phone in one of Willow's seldom-used drawers. Ethan opens his cell phone and finds it full of chats and intimate photos between Willow and Finn. The explicit conversations and photos were shocking to Ethan. He then realizes that the affair between Willow and Finn has been going on for 3 years. Ethan felt like he'd been struck by lightning, and his whole body was confused. He couldn't believe that his beloved wife would do such a thing. What's even more unacceptable to him is that the person Willow cheated on him with is his own brother. At this moment, Ethan's world completely collapsed. He felt anger, pain, and despair like never before. He did not know how he should face all this, not to mention his future, where to go. Anger, like volcanic lava, rolled in Ethan's chest. Pain, like a sharp knife cutting his heart. Despair, like a boundless darkness to swallow him completely. He could not imagine that his wife, with whom he had shared a bed for many years, would betray him, and even more so, he could not accept that the third party was his own brother, whom he regarded as his hand and foot. Ethan feels like a fool who's been kept in the dark for years. He thought back to Willow's and Finn's antics over the past 3 years, and the details that he had once ignored had now become sharp blades that stabbed at his heart one after the other. Those nights of overtime, those ambiguous eyes, those intimate gestures, those expensive gifts. It turned out that everything has long been traceable, only he has been reluctant to believe, or rather, is afraid to believe. Ethan closed his eyes in agony. How he wished it was all just a nightmare that he would wake up and disappear. However, the old cell phone in his hand, the revealing chat logs, the blindingly intimate pictures, all reminded him relentlessly that it was all true. It all really happened. The next few days were like years for Ethan. He couldn't face Willow, much less Finn. He locks himself in his study, doesn't eat or drink, and smokes all day and all night, trying to numb his nerves with nicotine. But those painful memories, those humiliating images, lingered in his mind like ghosts. A few days later, Ethan finally emerged from his muddled state. He looked at himself in the mirror, bearded and with bloodshot eyes, and felt a sudden pang of strangeness. He realized that he couldn't go on like this. He had to pull himself together. He had to get justice for himself. It was then that an even harsher truth completely shattered the last vestiges of his illusions about Willow. Ethan thinks back to his daughter Harper, whom he has loved for more than 10 years, and the old days come back to him. Thinking of the unpleasant conversations between Willow and Finn, a horrible thought flashes through his mind. Harper, is she really his real daughter? As soon as the thought appeared, it could no longer be suppressed. Ethan decides to get a paternity test. Though he still held a glimmer of hope deep down that this was all in his head, he was again forced to face the grim possibility. Ethan started planning in secret. He knows that Willow is already wary of him, and if he directly proposes a paternity test, she will obstruct it and may even destroy the evidence. So he used his friend, who graduated in a medical-related field, to quietly extract the water cups Harper usually used and, with his friend's help, sent the samples to an authoritative DNA testing organization. Waiting for the results was an agonizing experience for Ethan. He is both afraid to face the truth and eager to know it. This ambivalence made it difficult for him to sleep and eat. Finally, after a week, he received the test report. Ethan opened the report with trembling hands and nearly fainted when he read the words, "Excludes Ethan as Harper's biological father." This result, like a bolt from the blue, completely shattered Ethan's last line of psychological defense. He could not believe that his daughter, whom he had loved for more than 10 years, was Finn's child. This harsh truth hurts him to the core. He raged, he ranted. He smashed the contents of his study to pieces, but none of it vented the pain and hatred in his heart. Willow got the message, too. That day, when she came home to a messy study and a red-eyed, crazed Ethan, she knew it was all over. "Ethan, let me explain." Willow tried to argue, but Ethan was beyond listening to any explanation. Explanation? What else is there to explain? Ethan roared, "You've been forced to be married to Finn for 3 years, and even the baby is his. What else do you want to explain?" "Ethan, I know I'm sorry, but Finn and I truly love each other." Willow cried, "True love? True love is betraying your husband and screwing your own brother?" Ethan said, "Your true love really makes me sick." "Ethan, I know you hate me, but I'm begging you for Harper's sake. Don't hurt her, she's innocent." "Innocent? You tell me who's really innocent? Is it me? Or is it the me that you've kept in the dark for over a decade?" Ethan's voice was filled with grief. "Harper, she's not my daughter. She's the product of incest by you two sons of bitches." During the argument, Willow says something that breaks Ethan even more. "Ethan, even if you don't get a paternity test, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to be with Finn, and I'm taking Harper." Thoroughly enraged, Ethan rushes up and slaps Willow hard across the face. "Divorce? Take Harper away?" Ethan roared, "You shameless woman. You have no business being a mother, much less taking Harper. From this day forward, get the hell out of this house. I never want to see you again." Willow covered her face and ran out of the house crying. Ethan, on the other hand, sits on the floor, crying out in pain. He lost his wife. He lost his daughter. He lost everything. Over the next few days, Ethan decides to embark on his own plan of revenge. He knew that he couldn't just let Willow and Finn off the hook. He was going to make them pay for what they had done. Ethan's first thought was to use legal means to protect his interests. He consulted his friend Owen, who is a practicing attorney, to learn about the legal process and the do's and don'ts. "Ethan, based on your current situation, you can claim damages and seek custody of your children in a divorce proceeding," Owen said. "However, you will need to provide sufficient evidence of Willow and Finn's extramarital affairs and the emotional damage they caused you." "Evidence isn't a problem. I've been in the habit of collecting evidence on them over the years," Ethan said. "There's still some business evidence on that cell phone, and I'll be compiling it and getting it to you as soon as I can." "Okay, it's much better to have proof." Owen nodded. "Also, regarding Harper's custody, even though you're not her biological father, under the law you still have a chance to get custody of her if you can prove that you're doing your duty of care to her and that Finn is unfit to raise her." Great. So how exactly do we do that? Ethan said. With Owen's help, Ethan began to actively prepare for the divorce proceedings. He carefully compiled evidence of Willow and Finn's inappropriate relationship over the years, including those chat logs, intimate photos, hotel records, and more. To better prepare these materials, Ethan also hired a very experienced private investigator, Quinn, who is also a master of the internet. Quinn told Ethan, depositions must be reasonable and legal, and only evidence that is admissible in court will help you get the most out of your case. Your previous cell phone is not a very good way to take a deposition. It could easily be considered a theft of privacy and would not be admissible in court. Yes, I know. I'll do what you say next. Ethan replied. I'll do my best to assist you and help you along with the follow-up depositions, Quinn said. At the same time, Ethan begins to investigate Finn's finances, and he discovers that Finn's company has serious tax evasion problems and is even involved in some illegal business activities. Ethan provided this information to Owen as well as a powerful weapon in a future lawsuit. Ethan, this evidence of yours is very crucial. Once it is confirmed, Finn will not only lose his property, but may even face jail time. Owen said, but we also need to pay attention to the strategy. We can't play all the cards at once. We need to take it one step at a time to get the most out of it. As he waits for his trial to begin, Ethan's heart is filled with hatred and a thirst for revenge. He knew that the battle had only just begun, and he had to give it his all to win the ultimate victory. He's going to make Willow and Finn pay dearly for their treachery. Leaving Portland was both an escape and a beginning for Ethan. Seattle, the city of modernity, embraced Ethan with its unique charm. With his outstanding professional ability and extensive work experience, he soon established himself in a well-known local architectural firm and took up the position of senior designer. A new work environment with new co-workers allows Ethan to step away from his past for a while. He puts all his energy into his work, trying to numb his nerves and forget the painful memories with his busyness. During his time in Seattle, Ethan has also not broken contact with Quinn and Owen. Quinn, as an experienced private investigator and internet savant, not only helped Ethan gather much evidence of Willow and Finn's business fraud, but also taught him how to use the internet and public opinion to his advantage. Ethan, you have to remember that in the age of the internet, the power of public opinion is limitless. Quinn said as he sat on the patio of Ethan's new home on a sunny afternoon, sipping his coffee. We can use the internet to direct public opinion and put pressure on Willow and Finn by letting the public know who they really are. But I'm worried that this will hurt Harper, Ethan said with a frown. As much as he hated Willow and Finn, he didn't want Harper to get involved. We'll watch our step and not involve Harper. Quinn reassured, we're targeting Willow and Finn, not an innocent child. Under Quinn's tutelage, Ethan began to learn how to use the internet to gather information, how to post anonymously, and how to steer the course of public opinion. Like a sponge, he quickly absorbed this new knowledge and skill. Meanwhile, Owen is actively moving forward with the divorce proceedings. Ethan, we have submitted the petition and relevant evidence to the court, and the court has accepted your case and set it for trial next month. Owen told Ethan over the phone, during this period of time, you have to stay calm, don't get into a head-on conflict with Willow and Finn, and leave everything to the law. Okay, Ethan replied. He knows that the lawsuit is not only about property division, but also about Harper's custody, and he has to go all out to win the battle. Time passes day by day, and before you know it, a few years have passed. In the intervening years, Ethan's career in Seattle has flourished, and he has been involved in the design of several large-scale projects that have garnered critical acclaim from the industry, and his name is gradually spreading throughout Seattle's architectural community. And far away in Portland, Willow and Finn have had their lives turned upside down. As a result of the evidence Ethan had previously gathered, Finn's company was investigated by the tax authorities and ultimately found guilty of serious tax evasion and fined a substantial amount. Finn's company was in serious financial trouble as a result and eventually had to declare bankruptcy. And Willow, too, is being investigated by police for alleged involvement in Finn's illegal business activities. Although she was not convicted in the end, her reputation was thoroughly tarnished, and she could not gain a foothold in the industry. The two men who were once so prosperous have now become down and out. It is then that Harper, already 14 years old, learns the truth through Ethan's friends. She couldn't accept what her mother and uncle had done, much less forgive them for what they had done to her father. One weekend, she secretly bought a plane ticket to Seattle and made her way to Ethan's place alone. Dad! Ethan couldn't believe his eyes when Harper appeared in front of him. Harper, what are you doing here? Ethan hugged his daughter excitedly, his eyes moist. Dad, I know all about it. Harper choked out. I know all about why you left in the first place and what Mom and Finn did. I hate them, and I don't ever want to see them again. Ethan gently stroked Harper's hair and soothed, Silly boy, they're them and you're you. You shouldn't be held responsible for their mistakes. But when I think of what they did to you, I can't forgive them. Harper sobbed, Daddy, I never want to see them again. I want to be with you. Ethan hugged Harper tightly, his heart filled with emotion and guilt. He knows that he's been so busy with work and revenge over the years that he's neglected to care for Harper. He decides that he will make it up to Harper and give her a warm home in the future. At Harper's insistence, Ethan took her back to Portland and petitioned the court to change Harper's custody. Ultimately, the court upheld Ethan's request and awarded custody of Harper to Ethan. Harper's arrival brings sunshine back into Ethan's life. He works harder in hopes of creating a better living environment for Harper. And Harper was very understanding. She studied hard, got good grades, and became Ethan's pride. Meanwhile, Ethan has begun the next step in his revenge plan. He knew that legal action alone would not be enough. He wanted to make Willow and Finn look bad and give them a taste of what it would be like to have their families turned against them. With Quinn's assistance, Ethan begins to gradually expose Willow and Finn's scandal on the internet. He first posted anonymously on some industry forums about the messy private life of the two, such as their extravagant life, hypocritical charitable behavior, etc., which aroused some attention and discussion. Ethan then used the intimate photos and flirty text messages he had previously collected of Willow and Finn at the hotel and posted them on a number of gossip sites, causing an even bigger stir. The sheer scale of the photos and text messages and the explicit language shocked and angered all who saw them. Finally, Ethan posted evidence of the two men's commercial fraud, including misrepresentation of project payments and tax evasion, online and reported them to the authorities by their real names. This was a bombshell that completely thrust Willow and Finn into the limelight. In time, Willow and Finn became street rats for everyone. Their names were reviled by countless people on the internet, and their companies were completely liquidated. Ethan watched it all with cold eyes and a thrill of vengeance in his heart. He knew that this was far from over, and he was going to make Willow and Finn pay an even more painful price. He believes that good will eventually triumph over evil, and he, in turn, is the one who carries out that justice. The scales of justice begin to tilt, and Ethan's careful placement creates a chain reaction like dominoes. Willow and Finn's lives have hit rock bottom. The first to be hit was Finn. He was formally indicted for multiple counts of business fraud and tax evasion and was quickly sentenced to 5 years in prison. In the courtroom, Finn's former arrogance was gone. His face was ashen, his eyes full of despair and remorse. And Willow, although she was sentenced to probation by the court for medical reasons and for cooperating positively with the investigation, her life has been turned upside down. Her reputation is in tatters, and she has become completely untenable in the architectural world. Adding to her pain was the further deterioration of her cancer. Under great mental stress and suffering, Willow had to be admitted to a hospital. This hospital is not some luxurious private hospital, but an ordinary public hospital with simple conditions and very limited medical standards. The once glamorous Willow is now confined to a cramped hospital bed, riddled with tubes and kept alive by cheap medication. Her face was pale, her eyes dull, and she had completely lost her former grace. And to add to Willow's despair, she's been turned away from her family. The friends and girlfriends she used to have shunned her after learning what she and Finn had done. They not only talked about her behind her back, but even accused her publicly of being a morally corrupt woman and a third party who destroys other people's families. All the false praise and flattery that once surrounded her had now turned into vicious curses and attacks. Willow has finally realized what it means to be human and to be in the world. During his time in the hospital, Willow suffered both physically and mentally every day. She often cries late at night, regretting what she did, missing her daughter Harper and missing Ethan, who used to love her so much. On a stormy night, Willow lies in her hospital bed, reflecting on her ridiculous life. She remembered the sweet times she and Ethan had in college, the vision they had of a better life ahead of them, and the joy Harper had brought them when he was born. However, it was all in the past, a once upon a time that she could never return to. With her own greed and lust, she destroyed her family and her happiness with her own hands. Harper, my daughter. Willow's lips trembled as she broke off to say her daughter's name. How she wished Harper would come and visit her, even if it was just for a moment. But she also knew that it was impossible. Harper has chosen Ethan, chosen to be on the side of justice. She has completely lost her daughter, and this is the punishment she deserves. At the end of his life, Willow finally came to her senses. With the last of her strength, she writes a letter to Harper. In the letter, she confesses her sins to Harper and asks for her forgiveness. She also tells Harper that the person she loves most in her life is Ethan, and the person she's most sorry for is Ethan. After writing the letter, Willow felt a sense of relief she had never felt before. She closed her eyes, a bitter smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Early the next morning, a nurse found Willow had stopped breathing, a hint of relief lingering on her face. And Ethan, by this time, has started a whole new life. He established his own architectural practice in Seattle and quickly made a name for himself in the industry with his outstanding design talent and good business reputation. His company grew and became a rising star in the Seattle construction scene. On the relationship front, Ethan has also met his true love. He met and fell in love with a wonderful woman named Nova and eventually entered into marriage. Nova is an attorney who is not only beautiful and generous, but also smart and wise, and she also provides a lot of valuable advice during Ethan's revenge process. Nova loved Harper as if she were her own, and the family got along very well. Under the loving care of Ethan and Nova, Harper has gradually moved on from his past and grown into an excellent architect. 10 years later, Harper is a beautiful, talented young woman. She not only inherited Ethan's architectural talent, but also has her own unique design style. She became Ethan's right-hand woman as the lead designer at his firm. "Dad, what do you think of this design?" Harper handed Ethan a copy of the design drawing with a confident smile on her face. Ethan scrutinized the drawings with appreciation in his eyes. "Very good, Harper. Your designs are getting more and more sophisticated, and I'm sure this project will be a success." Ethan patted Harper's shoulder, sincerely proud of her. Father and daughter smiled at each other, and it was all over. Over the course of a weekend, Ethan, Nova, and Harper returned to Portland together. They visited Willow at the cemetery and laid a bouquet of flowers at her grave. Harper stands at Willow's grave with mixed feelings. Though she once resented Willow, after all, blood is thicker than water, and she eventually chose to forgive. "Mom, I know you did the best you could. I hope all is well with you over there," Harper said softly. After leaving the cemetery, Ethan's family went to a small restaurant in downtown Portland. The restaurant used to be a regular hangout for Ethan and Willow and is full of memories from their past. However, when they walked into the restaurant, they realized how much the place had changed. The restaurant is much smaller than it used to be, and the decor looks a little dated. Ethan recognizes the owner of the restaurant, and he walks up to say hello. "Boss, it's been a long time. You're Ethan?" The owner scrutinized Ethan, seeming to look at him with some disbelief. "It's me, boss," Ethan said with a slight smile. "You've changed quite a bit here over the years." "Alas, don't mention it." The owner sighed. "Business has been bad these past few years, just barely keeping up." "Daddy, who is he?" Harper asked curiously. "He's Finn, Willow's lover, your real father," Ethan said calmly. Harper looks at her boss in shock. She can't believe that the downtrodden, middle-aged man in front of her is her own father. Finn recognizes Ethan as well, and a look of embarrassment and remorse crosses his face. "Ethan, I'm sorry," Finn whispered, head down. "It's all in the past." Ethan said faintly, "How are you doing now?" "What else can I do? Just making a living." Finn laughed bitterly. "I now realize how stupid I was back then. destroying everything I had for a woman." Ethan didn't say anything, just looked at Finn silently. He knew that Finn had already paid for his mistake, and there was no need for him to fall on his sword. "Dad, let's go," Harper whispered as she tugged on Ethan's sleeve. Ethan nodded and left the restaurant with Nova and Harper. Walking down the streets of Portland, Ethan looks back on the past with a great deal of emotion. He understands that true revenge is not about destroying the other person, but about making yourself better. He proved with his actions that good will eventually triumph over evil, and those who do wrong will eventually pay for their actions. Ethan's life has begun a brand new chapter. He has a successful career, a beautiful family, and a wife and daughter who love him dearly. His future is full of hope and sunshine. And it's all thanks to his bravery and persistence in the first place. He used his wisdom and courage to win dignity and happiness for himself and his daughter. This story tells us that the road of life is full of temptations and challenges, and we must hold fast to our principles and bottom line in order to walk farther and more steadily. And those who have betrayed and hurt us will eventually get what they deserve. Justice may be late, but it is never absent. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.